Hey everybody, this is Daniel with Bothersome Truth, and I want to have a quick conversation heart to heart with those of you who are just now offended by Donald Trump. For those of us who have been paying attention to him this entire time, we'd like to know where you've been. I want to go through a list of all the groups that have been offended by Donald Trump throughout this campaign. And for those of you who think I'm just not even hitting all of them, just Google Trump offends, and you'll find a list from the New York Times of all the groups that he's offended listed by tweet. It's that extensive. But those of you who are just now mad at him, I'm sure you feel like you have some justification for that. Now, before I go in on some of you, let me pause and make something clear. If you are offended by the heinous comments that he made in those tapes from 11 years ago, I feel you because I think they're ridiculous and heinous as well. If you feel that you're going to be offended from more tapes that may be coming from him in the future, I feel you because they're probably going to be heinous too. What he said was terrible, and I understand those feelings. I'm talking to those of you who have not been paying attention, or you didn't care because it wasn't you being offended, and now that he said something about a group that you're part of, now you're upset. I'm talking to you because you're selfish. So let's talk about all the groups that were offended while you decided to be quiet or why you kept your mouth shut for whatever reason. He mocked the disabled. Yes, actually mocked them on stage. Reporters, he called them names, he attacked them, and that's not just from the media. Some of you will say, "Oh, well, you're just reporting and repeating the liberal media bias." No, I saw him in person when he came to Norcross, Georgia. So I saw him do it in person, including I remember him doing it to Megyn Kelly, and we saw how that was reported. Iowans, people from Iowa, he insulted their intelligence twice because he didn't like who they voted for. Muslims, how much time do we have? But let's just note the fact that he accused Muslims of celebrating the Twin Towers coming down. That was a lie. Were you offended then when he endangered people's lives in this country because he was feeding into Islamophobia? Oh, okay. African Americans, when he shared a false tweet of false crime statistics for black people, of a false crime bureau that doesn't even exist, and retweeted that, spreading a false narrative about African American criminality. Were you offended then when it could have affected me? Probably not. When he said he doesn't like black people counting his money, and he likes little men with yarmulkes doing it, Jewish people. Were you offended then? Did you say if that was enough then? I doubt it. Women. Oh, how much time do we have there? All the offensive things he said about women, the things he said about the former Miss America, the things he said about Megyn Kelly bleeding out of her you know what. I mean, how much do we have to say? The things he said about Hillary Clinton and attacking her for being a woman. There was legitimate times he did that. Did you say something then? Probably not, because you don't like Hillary, so you were okay with those attacks. Now, maybe you did say something when he attacked her on the basis of her gender. Good for you, but some of you kept your mouth shut, and I'm talking to you. POWs, were you offended when he criticized John McCain for being a prisoner of war and said he preferred his soldiers to be people who didn't get captured? Did you have a problem when he talked about Mexicans? Did you have a problem when he said he was going to bring torture back? Yeah, like George Bush, he wanted to bring torture back. Oh, here's a good one. Did you get as upset? Did you get upset when he said that he wants to kill the families of terrorists? Because this is just a short list of all the groups. These are not individual names. These are broad groups in America that he insulted. And I don't remember seeing some of you speak out. But yet then these tapes from 11 years ago come out. They resurface and they are offensive. Granted, I have been on Facebook this weekend arguing that these tapes and their heinousness should not be ignored. But I'm also trying to be fair in the videos that I do. And I don't think y'all are being fair. I think y'all are being selfish. And let me give you an example of how this selfishness is masked in self-righteousness. I saw one of my favorite authors, a New York Times bestselling author, post this weekend before it was like right after the Trump tapes hit, saying that if you are a father who has daughters like this author does, how can you look your daughters in the face and say you voted for Trump? What will you say if they ask you who you voted for? They said, I don't post about politics much, but I just had to say something. And people went on there and said, I'm glad you said something. Yes, that's right. That's what we need. I said, I enjoy your work. I said, I said, I'm a fan of what you do. I said, but the truth is you're being disingenuous. And it's the same thing I'm saying to some of you. Trump has had over 200 scandals. He has said so many offensive things. This man has fed into some of the worst aspects of America that minorities and others have been saying exists, and y'all ignored it because you said we were post-racial. You said we were past these things. He's been feeding it and using it to rise in the political sphere. And when we told you about this, you didn't listen. And you wait until a month before this election, and now you want to feign as though you have a moral high ground to go after him. Where were you when he was attacking disabled people? Where were you when he was blanket attacking Muslims? Where were you? Because it seems to me that you were quiet. You were quiet out of selfishness, you were quiet out of fear, or you were quiet out of apathy. I don't know which one it was, and it really doesn't matter. But now some of you think, because now he said something that offended your group, he said something that offended a group that you're a part of, that, oh, now it's beyond the pale. And let's get real for a second. He offended married white women. And now some of you have lost it. And you're mad. But you didn't care about the other groups that he offended. You're selfish and some of you are fake. And it's not okay. Because your silence allowed this man to grow in power. Because some of you refuse to speak up with your platform. Whether your platform was 30 people or 300,000 people, some of you should have said something sooner. And there is no excuse for it. There's none. And it really bothers me to see how some of you are just patting yourselves on the back. You're stroking your ego. Because you think there's something special about you because you commented after Scandal 200 a month ago before the election. Some of y'all blow me away. And you complain about the government. You complain about how things are going, and then you're not involved. You don't say anything. You don't speak truth to power, and you don't use your platform to try to be honest and fair and take the country in a better direction. But then when Trump says something that everybody else is criticizing, now you're offended. And now you feel special because you're jumping in on the consensus to attack him. When some of us have been trying to call this out the entire time and you wouldn't listen because you were too comfortable in your privilege, in your ignorance, or your apathy. I don't know which one it was, and I'm not asking. But I am going to ask some questions now of people who watch the vlog. That may be you. Maybe this is your first time watching. In fact, hello. If you are frequent to this, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. This is me starting the conversation with a bit of a mid-level rant, whatever we're going to call it. But now it's time to hear from you. What do you think? Do you know people who have been acting like this is a big deal when it's really not? What do you think about this? I'm going to throw it now to you. Leave your thoughts in the comments. I have spoken my part for now. I've got more to come where we're going to challenge some Hillary Clinton supporters as well. And we're going to talk about some other things going on in the news, especially local elections and paying attention to your local ballots. So this has been Daniel with the Bothersome Truth, and I hope you have a good day.